Trump's big lie, the election was rigged against him, weaving bizarre conspiracy theories appeared to intimate that long-dead Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez had manipulated voting machines to change votes in the U.S., and ingratiating herself with Trump to the point where he reportedly considered naming her to be a special counsel overseeing an investigation of voter fraud. Lawyer Sidney Powell has given up the game. In a court filing defending Powell from a billion-dollar defamation lawsuit from Dominion Voting Systems, her lawyer said the claims she made on national TV for months were not at all true and too ridiculous to be defamatory. Quote, plaintiffs themselves characterize the statements at issue as wild accusations and outlandish claims. They are repeatedly labeled inherently improbable and even impossible. Such characterizations of the allegedly defamatory statements further support defendants' position that reasonable people would not accept such statements as fact. That's right. After months of helping to whip up so much fury among the Trump base that thousands of his supporters violently stormed the Capitol building and attempted to stop Joe Biden from being certified as president, Sidney Powell now says that all those people should have known better than to believe her. Election lawyer Mark Elias led the charge to stop Trump's efforts to claim election fraud in the courts. He's the founder of the legal advocacy website Democracy Docket, and he joins me now. Well, what do you make of this response?
Well, I mean, I agree with her that her claims were nonsense, but that doesn't mean they're not actionable as defamation. I mean, the fact is she lied repeatedly about the outcome of the election, and in this lawsuit, specifically about the role that the various voting machine manufacturers played or didn't play. And, you know, her effort by her lawyers, while gallant, I don't think is going to save.
Well, there was always this strange thing that was happening amidst all these lawsuits, which you saw up close, which is that they would say one thing in public, and then when they had to file things in court and make arguments in court, you know, where they could be disbarred, there were very, very, very different kinds of songs they were singing.
Yeah, they tended to be very brave in the parking lot and not so brave in the courtroom. You know, the big bravado outside the lawn care company was then followed by a very meek performance sitting before the federal judge. One of the things that I found most amusing about the document that you're just referencing to is that her lawyers say, well, you know, some of these things she said at the RNC, as if to suggest, well, no one could believe anything that you said at the RNC.
Right. I mean, there's something sort of maddening about this, though, because I do feel like that there was always a little bit of kind of carnival barker performance to the whole thing. I mean, even from Trump, obviously, this and Giuliani, like the whole thing was at one level, it was so preposterous, it was so ridiculous. The things they were saying were so manifestly being offered with no evidence. And yet millions of people believed it. And then some subset of those people, like, went and beat the living crap out of a bunch of cops on Capitol Hill when they tried stalking around the Capitol looking for Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, look, there's going to have to be accountability because you had a whole bunch of lawyers and politicians led by Donald Trump who systematically lied to voters before the election, then lied to their voters after the election. That big lie then culminated in violence on January 6th at the Capitol. And you would think that even after that, they would now abandon it. But instead, we see in legislatures around the country, Republicans are now still clinging to that big lie, continuing to lie to their voters as they propose ever greater voter suppression legislation.
And not just that. I mean, we covered the story last night of the primary challenge from Jody Hice to Brad Raffensperger, which seems predicated mostly on the fact that Raffensperger refused to indulge in election fraud and fabricate votes to overturn a Democratic election. And then Mo Brooks announces his Senate run, essentially saying this is the greatest election fraud. These are now like canonical central platform positions of Republican candidates.
Yeah, look, the only thing that binds the Republican Party today, its central plank, is being against voting. That is really, it's no longer taxes, it's no longer trade. It is literally the glue of the Republican Party that you need to be opposed to voting rights and try to suppress voting in furtherance of showing fealty to a failed one-term president who wants you to believe that he didn't lose the election that he did. It's a pathetic place that the Republican Party has landed itself, and hopefully it'll turn itself around.
In terms of the Powell suit, it's striking to me. I mean, I am, I love the First Amendment. And as someone who is in my line of work, I'm always a little suspicious of overly broad use of defamation or libel. I think, free exchange and satirization of public figures and all those things are really important. It is notable, however, that this has been the one avenue for some kind of accountability on the basic facts of the matter with a variety of different folks who spread this lie.
Yeah, it's been very interesting, actually, that the fear of defamation seems to have injected a modicum, not too much, but a modicum of caution in aspects of the right-wing media and some on the right wing. But, the fact is we can't govern through defamation law. We need politicians to be honest, and right now Republicans are lacking that.
Mark Elias, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
All right, still to come, separating